Hello, everybody. Welcome to your Sunday hot takes for Championship Round 12. At the end of a 3-game week, take a bow. Coventry, Millwall, and Bristol City. The fabled 9 points. Don't take a bow. Norwich and Sheffield Wednesday, 0 points across the week. Little bit of time to breathe now, although a couple of teams are in EFL Cup action this midweek. And then we're going to do it all again as we go to international break 3 after another 3-game week. Get your thoughts down there in the comments on EFL Championship Round 12. Where do we start? You know where we start. Ding, ding, ding. Coventry every single week. Coventry 3, Watford 1. Coventry 6 wins in a row. 12 games undefeated, and undefeated runs always understandably get picked up more when they run from the start of the season, just because of that big lovely 0 in the defeat column. And I suppose we should thank Coventry really, because they're making one thing very clear for us as we try and get our heads around what is quite a scrambled and fascinating championship narrative kind of template this year. Coventry are clearly the best team in the league, aren't they? And right now, I think everybody is looking at it as Coventry will be one of the teams automatically promoted. The door is wide open for someone else, and it'll be Coventry and one other. And that's obviously with the caveat if things continue to play out in the way that they are playing out. Coventry could hit the buffers. It looks highly, highly unlikely at the moment. They're playing brilliantly, and it just goes to show that development of a team across multiple seasons is such a big thing, particularly in the Championship. 3 in from that way, 3 in from that way every season. Silly systems with, chasms in money mean massive churn at certain clubs every year. And if you just keep the same manager, the majority of the same players, and you had a vaguely winning formula the previous season, and you just try and build on it, this is what happens. Look, it's not going to be like this all season. Coventry are way over 2 points per game. And I did have a little look. They can now drop to 1.88, so it's not massively pronounced. Still have to be overly decent for the rest of the season to hit 92. Do we think it's going to need 92 points this season? What I am saying is, with this magnificent start, Coventry are starting to give themselves margin for error. And I always give these 2 examples. Look at Slaven Bilic's West Brom. Okay, it was the COVID season. And look at Scotty Parker's Bournemouth. If you have a fantastic first half or even first third of the championship season, rack those points up, you give yourself such big margin for error on the one hand, and you make it so hard for the teams chasing you. They have no margin of error. Through winter, through spring, Easter, through all the 3-game weeks, all the injuries, you say to another team, go on then, you basically got to crack this out for 4 months now if you want to catch us. That's what Coventry are doing. Brilliant. Brandon Thomas Asante, it's rinse repeat. It's like Frank in his interview, trying to find new ways to say the same things about Coventry keep winning. And Brandon Thomas Asante, 7 goals in 6 games. And you've got to give Lampard credit for the development of what I thought was just going to be a kind of substitute for Coventry this season. He is the guy. Just look at the gap as well. 5 points to automatic promotion. And by the way, we're going to talk about the 9-point weeks for Millwall and Bristol City. That gap could have been even bigger if those sides hadn't been outstanding this week. So yeah, well done Coventry, and Coventry fans can stick their feet up and enjoy the week. Although I'm sure Coventry fans would want to play a 3-game week for the next 4 weeks in a row at the moment. Watford under Grazia, loss. Some positives, I think. I think played well in the second half, even though they were down to 10. And Loser's a boss, isn't he? He's going to have a great season, Loser. He's just in the groove. If he doesn't get hurt, I think, could you get 10 and 10? 10 goals, 10 assists from Loser? He seems to be the guy at Watford. But if he's the guy at Watford, Coventry are the team in the Championship at the moment. But Middlesbrough having a good go at chasing them. It was Middlesbrough 1, Wrexham 1. And Middlesbrough are over 2 points per game. They are jolly, jolly hard to beat. And they've banged 7 points on the board this week. I'm sure Boro fans knowing, particularly that they were, I know Ipswich haven't been great this week, but they were going in against Ipswich and they win that game. And if you told them they were going to be trailing in the last game as well, they'd have been very happy. Look, come on. Most reasonable football fans, you give them 6 points across a 3-game week, you'll take it, won't you? So 7 for Boro. Very, very good indeed. Got the job done. On the watch-along, actually, at Sheffield Wednesday in midweek. 1-1 against Wrexham in this one. And yeah, plenty positives. They are 0s and 1s scored against them in the last 7 games. So if no one scores twice against you, you're pretty much in every game, whatever happens. At home, they are excellent, aren't they? Middlesbrough, 14 points in 6 games at the Riverside. And we know sometimes you look at teams that end up getting promoted and, there's a giant total in home and just be decent enough away from home, point per game or above if you got the 2 or more at home and you're looking absolutely fine. Hackney is the guy. He gets the goal. He's starting every single game and performing as well. So even though it's quite hard when you're top of the table and you turn up for a home game and you don't win it, there's kind of a sense of disappointment in the short term. I think in the big picture, you've got to be happy if you're a Middlesbrough fan. And I keep saying it's an open door season. Just stay somewhere near Coventry and you're probably going to get promoted and be able to bat off the other teams given the inconsistency elsewhere in the division. There are 2 teams in every game. It was Middlesbrough 1, Wrexham 1. Of course, Wrexham got the lead in this one. Josh Windass, I quite respect this. Sometimes you see players, they score a muggy deflected goal and they run off like they're Maradona or something. Windass is like, nah, hit a decent shot, got a deflection, went in. And if I'm bigging up Middlesbrough for being hard to beat, I'm going to be got to big up Wrexham as well for being hard to beat. 1 loss in 8 in all competitions. And I thought, I was kind of happy with that 0s and 1s stat in 7 games for Middlesbrough conceded. And then I look, Wrexham are exactly the same. I know, I suppose the difference between Wrexham and Middlesbrough is draws and home record. And if Wrexham played at home like Middlesbrough play at home, they'd probably be where Middlesbrough are in the table. They'd certainly be a lot closer. But it's knitting together fairly nicely for Wrexham. They're over the point per game. They've got 4 points in the last 2. They don't lose very often. It's difficult, isn't it, this season? There's always going to be the circus around Wrexham and around Parkinson. If he ever goes even a run of like no wins in 3 or no wins in 4, here comes the pressure. Here comes the chitter-chatter. And he's managing it in a very level and statesman-like way. It's the only way he really can, Parkinson. But yeah, they're decent, and the excellent, ambitious batch of signings that came in summer are having an impact, and they are kind of building into a team. And I'd be interested in if there's been a change of view for those who went into the season saying Parkinson's too pragmatic, and just the Championship and English football as a whole this season. All the talk is about physicality, set plays, ball in play. No bad thing to be a pragmatic team this season in the top couple of tiers of English football, is it? Middlesbrough 1, Wrexham 1. Take a bow, as we said. Millwall, 9-point week, outstanding. Millwall are 3rd. And they've also won 4 games on the trot. It was Millwall 1, Leicester 0. So they have dispatched a year 1 parachute team at the Den. They missed a penalty as well. Ivanovic missing from the spot. Only Coventry have more wins than Millwall. I keep saying it about Millwall. If they're in a game, they get something from it or they win the game. Dare I say, if they're struggling in a game, they get a draw. If they're in a game, they get a win. And they were very, very much in this one against Leicester. Aziz, brilliant. He's got 4 goals and an assist in 5. I think he scored in all 4 of the last games as well. So he's not loaded it up with doubles or a hat-trick at any point. That shows great levels of consistency, and it does show the recruitment at Millwall is, as always, very innovative. Can they take a player from, Reading in League One and have him as one of the top performers currently in the Championship? Of course they can. Rinse, repeat, narrative. Door is open this season. Millwall are up there. They are perennially one that tempt us with a playoff finish and then end up 8th, don't they? Can they keep in this form? And as I've said, in terms of automatic promotion, that front loading the points is helpful. Same story works for playoff spots as well. Although, you tell me, what's the expectation now for Millwall? It's a team that's banged out 4 wins in a row. I'm sure Millwall fans would take playoffs, wouldn't they? But as I say, the door is open, apparently behind Coventry for an automatic promotion place that you'd expect Leicester City to be in contention for. A 1-point week for the Foxes. 1 win in 8. And dare I say, those of us who were setting up the idea that Leicester were kind of solid and not spectacular, and then James scores a worldie. Fatawu scores 3 worldies. Ramsey scored a couple of worldies. It is a trick that will work when you've got high-quality cheat code players at Championship level, but it's not one you can rely on over and over and over again, unless you're Warnock with Tarabt and Sean Derry running round for him. That'll get you promoted, won't it? But so when the worldies aren't flying in, Leicester aren't winning, and Leicester aren't winning very often if it's 1 win in 8. It was at Swansea, and again in that game, I'm sure James put 1 top bins and Fatawu did as well. So is that the worry for Leicester? And a 1-point week is not great. But let's focus on Millwall, who are great and have won 4 in a row. Bristol City, we've got them all in this first batch, as you'd understand. The 9-point week is a right up towards the top of the table. It's Bristol City 1, Birmingham 0. For those who track it, that's me. If you're interested in how these 3-game weeks work and how hard they are to map out logistically, don't let it go unnoticed that all of the scorers of the 9-point weeks had 2 home games and 1 away game. So we always look at it and say, obviously, if you can play 2 homes, 1 away, that's better. And if you are going to play 2 away games, you don't want to play them consecutively. But look, what it does show is that, even though I'm sure we'll have examples of teams that have scored 6 or 7 points with 2 away games in there, but just in this particular round, the teams that got the 9s, like Bristol City, had 2 home games, and Bristol City had gone back to back. Obviously, they beat Norwich, didn't they, at the start of the week away. Beat Southampton on the watch along, didn't they, in midweek. And they've beaten Birmingham now in a jolly low margin game. I think both sides had 1 shot on target in the game. Bristol City won it with 0.27 XG, but Struber he's good in this regard, isn't he? I think he's good in game at how he wants to pitch his pressing and, where his team is in terms of the depth of the block, let's just say, and how defensive they want to be. And I think in a game like this, what time did the goal go in? 42. I think they are able to then sit in. So they can do either in terms of that mad pressing and front foot stuff, they can sit as well. And they can defend their box. They've got big old centre-backs, haven't they? And full-backs who can come in and a good screen. And, I know they've got injuries in central midfield, but Viner is basically another defender sort of sat in midfield. And let's talk about Sinclair Armstrong, the much maligned sometimes Sinclair Armstrong. He gets the goal here, and we'll have the normal conversation about him of if he can get a manager that can help him put it together. You look at the pace and the power and you think, ooh, that's a nuisance. But then I think it was like 11 months or something. The title of the YouTube video and the highlights was for Bristol City. So, is it possible that he can put it together? They've got Reece there, and it's just getting people to dovetail with the excellent Mehmeti and Twine. And, they've got it going forward, haven't they? Bristol City, sixth last year felt like they were punching, but they're fourth at the moment. So, fair play to Struber and fair play to the Robins. A 9-point week. Birmingham have got 8 points in 8 games. So, we're just not in good form. And it feels like Birmingham don't know how to win in the Championship. It feels like they're in a lot of games, and that lovely controlling football that we said in League One. Oh, this is smart. Bring that into the Championship and all will be well. That's going to work beautifully. And then all of a sudden we're talking about ball in play for 50 minutes and that's it, and set plays being important, and you're going against 3 at the back at Bristol City, and teams sitting in against you and teams showing you a hell of a lot of respect. Chris Davies and Birmingham haven't quite yet solved that conundrum of how to play through in this kind of situation they're in. And I do want to say, by the way, next week, I know they're at home twice. They've got to play Millwall and Middlesbrough next week as well, who are currently 2nd and 3rd in the table. So it doesn't get any easier for Birmingham, who are just coming out on the wrong side of the low-margin games at the moment. Is that going to change? I tell you what, given every comment you hear from Mr. Tom Wagner, it'll have to change for Chris Davies' sake, because 8 points in 8 and 15th in the league ain't going to work for Knighthead Capital long term, is it? So, Chris Davies, he knows he's got to get that moving quickly. Get your thoughts in on that lot up there. Coventry 3, Watford 1, Middlesbrough 1, Wrexham 1, Millwall 1, Leicester 0, Bristol City 1, Birmingham 0. On to the next, and Stoke City won 1-0 at Portsmouth. They've put on a 6-point week. Stoke fans, is this fair? They've put on a 6-point week based on a couple of Sorba Thomas crosses, one flying in the goal and one being headed in the own goal by Matthews in this one. And Vic Johansson in goal. Every time I click on a Stoke win, there's a little star by Victor Johansson and it says like 8.1 or 8.5 or something like that. He's incredible. But we know what Stoke are, don't we? They are a solid, tight team with Thomas, who's a hot hand. Manhoff and Mubama are strong as well up front. They've got a very steady, consistent, wily, intelligent manager and a really good goalkeeper. So whether that can take you right up to the top of the league, I don't know, but certainly stick you in one of the playoff spots, and that's where Stoke are, and that's where Stoke have been. And 6 points across the week you'll really take. And even though the bloom's off the rose a little bit in terms of Portsmouth being good at home, you've still gone there to Pompey and got the win. And have they been away? Yeah, they're another team that's gone away twice in the 3-game week and come out with 6 points. So given what I've said about the only teams getting the full 9 had 2 home games in the batch, I'm sure Stoke fans will be pretty happy. And with Millwall in good form, the only defeat there in midweek, job done. As I said, Portsmouth, 4 home losses already. which is quite something. Only the bottom two, that being Sheffield Wednesday and Norwich, have more home defeats. There is good news, though, for Pompey. Murphy is back, and not that they're a one-man team, but he really made things happen for them last season. I remember watching the game, his last game actually, where he went out hurt. Lost the keeper in that one, didn't they, at Southampton? And I thought, oh, he looks really, really at it this season. Murphy, reaching that age where you've put everything together as a player. Maybe you've been a bit inconsistent through your career. You're the main man at this club, and you think, yeah, what can he carry Pompey to this season? And he is back. Portsmouth's only 1 point for the week. John Mousinho is always very, very level, so they will look to react next week. They've got to go to Birmingham, home to Wrexham. They've got to go to Hull, so it's not the easiest thing in the world, but I'm sure they'll get a win in there somewhere, won't they? You tell me. Hull 1, Charlton 1. Both of these teams could have had a 9-point week, but they shared the points here. A late goal from Luke Berry in the 91st minute. So Hull were stoppage time away from the 9-pointer. But these two are both doing brilliantly, aren't they? 6th and 8th in the table. Lots of worries about Hull. How long is this unbeaten record for Hull? Is that one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so 5 unbeaten and 3 wins in a row in there. And if you roll that back another 3 games, you can add another win and a draw, even though you've got the defeat down at Watford. I think they led at Watford as well, didn't they? So Jurkovic doing a really fine job when a lot of us were pretty worried about Hull with the off-pitch stuff. And he's given good stability. And I'll tell you what, he's got a tune out of McBurney, Jurkovic. He's now getting a tune out of Joe Gelhardt, who across the week scored in every game. And I remember Gelhardt. Do you know, I think it might have been at Hull. Was it at Hull he scored for Wigan? When he was about 17, and we all knew about him as an England under-19 international or something like that. And we've been waiting for the big season for Gelhardt. Didn't quite work at Leeds. I think he's still only on loan, isn't he? But yeah, he's putting the goals in, and Hull are putting the points on the board. But so are Charlton, who'd gone victory, hadn't they? And hell of a win at my lot, Ipswich, in midweek. They nailed that one, didn't they? So they come away with 7 points. They're in the top 6. I think Bree off the bench today, but we speak every week about Bree. We say the same things about Charlton. It's good. It's okay to say the same things about teams because it means they're consistent. It means they have an identity, and repeated patterns are not a bad thing. I know, people get a bit funky in the comments on YouTube. What's new there? Oh, Ben, you're saying the same thing about Coventry every week. Go figure. They're doing the same thing every week. Charlton do the same thing every week. They're resilient. They're really good on set plays. Bree's really good on set plays. And old Zebedee in the dugout is just a very good manager at Championship level. And that's why Charlton are 6th. And that's why they've just put a 7-point week on with a late goal here at Hull, 1-1 there. On Friday night, we did the watch-along. Absolute carnage. Preston 3, Sheffield United 2. Sheffield United 2-0 up in that game and managing to lose it 3-2. So Preston, can we call the defeat against Birmingham at home an outlier? They're back on it at Deepdale, even though they looked for all the world like they were losing this one before that stunning comeback. 14 points in 7 at home, and obviously beating Sheffield United now. They are 1 away from the clean sweep here. They have beaten Leicester, Ipswich, Sheffield United. They'd fancy playing Southampton at the moment. We're going to get on to Saints in a minute. That would be all of the parachute teams. They've beaten 3 out of 4 at Deepdale already. They are brilliant at home. Are Preston, and can they get those front players to knit together? Jebison and Dobbin, Osmajic off the bench. We always kind of categorise Preston as a team that's hard to play against, that's got massive players that play three at the back and that, I don't know, just make things a bit stodgy and difficult. But Lee Hendry was saying on Sky to Heckingbottom, he sees the difference, and I think he's right, actually, Hendry, as the options attacking are much better. And that can then take you from a team that's just hard to beat, that sits in the middle, to a higher finish. Preston currently 7th, and they have kind of saved their week because they had been defeat beforehand. But Deepdale is a fortress they apparently can rely on after, the first home defeat of the season in midweek. Sheffield United's fascinating, isn't it? Because at 2-0, you're sat there saying, Wilder, he's got it going again. It's going to be 9 points across the week. I think it then would have been 4 wins in 6, and they're well outside the bottom 3, and everything's rosy, and Callum O'Hare's scoring goals, and Cooper looks confident again, and all of that good stuff. But then they collapse and they lose the game, and there's that little flash. No, I'm not going to say it. There's that little flash of them being fragile and collapsing again. It was a weird one, wasn't it? It's a great goal from Dobbin, and you have to say the Tanganga goal's unlucky. It just bounces off his knee. And as I always say with a lot of own goals, where's the worst place that ball can bounce off Japhet Tanganga's massive knee or quad muscle or whatever, right into the top corner? And then McGuinness gets hurt in the build-up and is out of position to the third goal. So I'm not taking anything away from Preston, but I think if you're Wilder, you're not talking about a pathetic collapse that they were seeing earlier in the season. It was a bit of a freak show, wasn't it? And I wouldn't be surprised if Sheffield United bounce back. Who are we talking about next? Derby 1, QPR 0. And I said I'm going to keep doing it with Derby until the binary code 0s and 1s stop. So this is Derby's last 8 games now. We can do this. 1-0, 0-1, 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, 0-1, 1-0, 1-0. So I suppose the good news there is those last 2 went 1-0, 1-0. And this feels very Eustace. Maybe he would have targeted that. He knew Norwich were coming and QPR were coming. Double home win, double clean sheet. And I think the thing that stands out a little bit to me in this one is the strong start to the game, because Derby have looked a bit laboured and a little bit, it's been a slog, and they've, I don't know the stats actually, Derby fans have something. It feels like they've struggled to get ahead in games, haven't they? And I think they really went out and they really went at QPR in this one. And it was like the early weeks of the season. Remember the early weeks of the season where Sargent used to score for Norwich every week and Morris used to score for Derby every week. Thomas used to score for Stoke every week. Well, Morris back in the goals here. A bit of a tap-in, but I think he can be a leader and a big talisman. And, they've got Aguiman going now as well. Derby up to 17th. Not losing regularly. How far can I roll that back? 1 defeat in 6. Low scoring. Moving in the right direction, am I thinking? Derby, let me know your thoughts in the comments. QPR, win-loss for the last 4. Again, I don't think... I don't know if Stefan mentioned this, but I don't think the scheduling helps. They had back-to-back aways, and they were at Swansea on Wednesday night as well. I know they got the win, but, I do think if you look for the patterns in terms of who's got it hard logistically in the 3-game weeks, you want to find any statistic, you'll find it, you'll make it work. But I don't think it's a coincidence, is it? A London team going out to Swansea and then going to Derby is going to struggle. I'm sure you can find a flip reverse to the argument. Maybe the goal's not flowing. I saw in the highlights a chance for Kone that maybe he sticks in the back of the net a few weeks ago. But I also feel maybe the more rational QPR fans will say there could have been a couple down in the first half as well. So, swings and roundabouts in that regard. Let me know your thoughts on... Flip your pad back over. Sorry, Pompey 1, Stoke... Pompey 0, Stoke 1. I'll give you 3 points there, Pompey. Hull 1, Charlton 1, Preston 3, Sheffield United 2, Derby 1, QPR 0. Ipswich 1, West Brom 0. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you to Jack Clark, because we had Blue Monday live at Portman Road. If you don't know, I'm the host and founder of the Blue Monday podcast for Ipswich Town, and we do live shows, try and do one every season at the club. As you can see, I'm looking very beautiful and not tired at all today because of a very stressful day yesterday trying to set everything up with tickets and the room and, you know, the running order and getting everybody in the right place, putting a great show, and we hope we did. So if you were at Blue Monday live with special guest James Scowcroft as well, Mikey did a great interview with him as well. Thank you. And it's always helpful. I'm sure I'm talking to a small niche here. If you put on a live event in front of football fans, it's always helpful if it follows a win. And it was a glorious win that was never in doubt, full of total football by Ipswich. No, you can sense the sarcasm in my voice. It was a bit laboured, wasn't it? West Brom didn't offer a great deal. We're happy to get behind the ball. The winger, Ealing, was never prepared to go ahead of Leif Davis. The midfielders who have got quality there, particularly Mowat, were, you know, you've got to sit there in this line, pressing line in the 4-2-3-1 shape. Well, actually, they defended in a 4-4-2 shape, to be fair, but could never get in front of the Ipswich deep midfielders, which did make it stodgy. But then, you know, you're going to get the world's smallest violin if a fan of a parachute team moans that teams come and set up in an away game against a team that frankly has way more money and a better squad than the majority of the rest of the league. They set up to stop them winning. That's the deal. We know that the chasms in the Championship financial landscape mean that happens. And Ipswich huffed and puffed and got a goal. And was it the power of the bench? You're able to bring on Caust, Clark, and who else came on? Azon. A bit of a weird one because Smodic started in 10 for Ipswich, got injured. Akpom came in, and then Nunes came in and played the 10. And David and Joe were saying in the Blue Monday show, sometimes you have to be forced into your hand, and maybe Ipswich need a more playmaker-y 10 like Marcelino Nunes rather than a get on the end of stuff and score goals number 10 like Connor Chaplin used to be. Maybe if they're going against teams that are out to stop them more often than not, you need Nunes, who's more of a central midfielder than a striker. You know, it's kind of between the two with number 10s, isn't it? I don't know. But Ipswich got the win, and a win is a win is a win. Are they popping the ball around at hyper speed and making zillions of chances and winning games 3-2 and 4-3 and 4-2 and all of that stuff like they were 2 years ago in the Championship? No, they're not. But it's a different time and a different place and a different squad and a different outlook, and the element of surprise is well and truly gone. And maybe they'll be more like, I don't know, Paul Heckingbottom's Sheffield United, who nicked second place. If they are nicked second place, they're very solid and they deserve second place. But you remember that team, you know what I'm saying. Although James Scowcroft did say in his interview that he thought if Ipswich go up, they will have to do it at Wembley, which sent fear in my heart, the idea of seeing my team in the playoff final. God, for the first time in 25, it'll be 26 years when we get into next year, won't it? They rescued the week a little bit. It was double defeat, and Ipswich, you know, like trying to start the lawnmower, aren't you? And it's spluttering, but they're getting their first clean sheet in 6 as well. West Brom, as I say, offered very little, I have to say. And when you consider the quality of a Mowat or a Price or a Illing Jr. or a Mikey Johnston, you think, can those guys produce a bit more than sitting in against Ipswich? But there you go. You never know. Maybe if they'd come out, they'd have lost by more. I don't know if that's unfair on Ryan Mason and West Brom. What is not subjective and is an objective fact, West Brom has scored 7 points in 8 games. So that's relegation form. If we're looking at fewer than a point per game as relegation form, that's relegation form over a sample size of 8 games. That will not work for Ryan Mason or indeed of the Baggies fans. Speaking of relegation form, let's talk about Norwich, who lost at Swansea. First win in 4 for Swans. Vipotnik double. He hadn't scored for a while, but he's now on to 6. And he's firing. And this is going to parlay into what I'm going to say about Norwich. He punished them, didn't he, Vipotnik? And I feel a little bit sorry for Norwich. I do. Yes, they're terrible. Yes, they've lost 5 in a row. But they are so soft, aren't they? And you look at the pattern of the game and what actually happened. And you look at the Norwich centre-backs as the goals come in. And you do have to say, I heard Liam Manning in the post-match saying, we just shoot ourselves in the foot. And at the moment, if there's any possible chance of Norwich losing a game, they lose it. Vipotnik gets played in, right-hand side of the box. Of course he's going to larrup it in the top corner with a brilliant finish. Norwich get the equaliser. And then again, Norwich are in possession. It looks like they're kind of, you tell me, Swansea and Norwich fans, having a decent spell. Give the ball away in midfield. Vipotnik gets it out of his feet and then just steams one in the bottom corner from outside the box. And if you're a Norwich fan, you're like, of course he's done that. Of course he has. But this is not me sitting here and saying Norwich are being unlucky. They're in dreadful form, and it's often not bad luck when these things happen. It's just absolute fragile, paper-thin, wafer texture confidence. And when you've got that, it's very, very hard to win, isn't it? Even if you're in games, even if you've got good players, those intangibles about team sport where just you feel like the whole world's against you and everything's going wrong, then go figure, everything does go wrong and the star striker from the other team is going to smash 2 goals in. So, look, from a Swansea point of view, they kind of confused me because I thought they were doing well and playing well. And then I would look at the table week on week and, they weren't in a great position. I'm looking now, it's the classic. We see it throughout the season, don't we, where someone's got the same in wins, draws and losses, and it's 4-4-4, which is kind of the definition of inconsistent, and adding a 0 goal difference as well there. So Swansea are middling, even though Ronald and Vipotnik are playing well, and Sheehan appears to have taken the baton, that was very Suffolk, wasn't it, and running with it. So Swansea, we need to see a little bit more, but it, could be a lot worse, couldn't it? And Norwich, well, what do you do? There's a week off now, and then there's a 3-game week, and then there's an international break. And, I really, really like Liam Manning, but there's a point where it's just, completely unsustainable, and you have to make a managerial change. And, I'm all for the big themes in football that, if you have the right man, that they need to be given time, and that anything sensible and useful in football is built over a long time, over multiple transfer windows with repeated patterns and, progress, and as Manning would say, behaviours. So I believe all of those principles. I think most people do, don't they? However, if you've got the wrong man at the wrong time, you do have to make a change. And that Norwich squad is not worthy of losing every game and being second bottom to a beleaguered Sheffield Wednesday as a club, where there are far bigger things going on than, trying to stay in the division this season. And yeah, it's only, and a terrible start from Sheffield United that's resulted in a managerial hire and, whatever ownership issues you go in with that. So, I don't know. Would I be surprised if I finished filming this and there was a corner flag been tweeted by Norwich? No. Would I be surprised if they went through another 3-game week with Manning and saw what was going to happen. Who have they got? Hull at home, Sheffield Wednesday away, Leicester at home. Is there a win in there? I'm sure the Norwich fans are going to comment, Ben, we ain't winning any game at the moment. And I get it. I do get it. I don't know. I remember at Ipswich under Paul Hurst, right about this time, he got sacked after 16 games and they left it another week. And yeah, he lost all of those games in the 3-game week. And it was like, might as well have just pulled the trigger the week before, although Ipswich were in a very different place than Norwich are now. And I do genuinely believe that if it's not Manning moving out of the bottom three, someone can come in and get a tune out of that squad. But I don't know. Lots wrong at Norwich, and the Norwich fans are unhappy, not just with Manning, but with the sporting director and the ownership and the general direction of travel. And I don't blame them, frankly. So there you go. Let me know if and when we see a corner flag tweeted by Norwich. Finally, no, not finally. We've got 2 to go. Sorry. Sheffield Wednesday 1, Oxford 2. In a gargantuan news week for Sheffield Wednesday. Let's deal with Oxford first, though. Oxford have got 6 points this week, and Gary Rowett will do that, won't he? When the chips are down, he pulls out a 1-0 win here, a clean sheet there, a 6-point week there. And that's what he has done. Yeah, 1-0 win, a clean sheet over Derby. And although Gary might not go and win a game that Oxford on paper shouldn't win, when there is a game that Oxford on paper should win, he's quite good at getting that done, isn't he? And they've gone to Sheffield Wednesday, and this wasn't easy given what we're going to talk about in terms of Wednesday and the respective attendance in their game on Wednesday night and yesterday on Saturday, and the general mood of siege mentality that you will get for the next few weeks, I think, around Sheffield Wednesday and particularly at Hillsborough. Nervy second half, I've got to say. They got 2-0 up. Lancashire and Brannigan, and those really are players you want to be delivering in terms of Oxford, aren't you? Brannigan's always been a star there. Lancashire, you want a 10-15 goal season from for if they're surviving Oxford. And Brannigan as well. Normally that free kick where you give the keeper the eyes and think you're going to cross it has some curl on it. He drills that one in. It's a tremendous goal by Brannigan for the surprise for 2-0. And yeah, Rowett showed enough humility to say that he put the Oxford fans through it a little bit in that second half. And yeah, they got the goal back, didn't they, Wednesday. But Oxford get the win. And forgive me for damning with faint praise, Oxford. I know we deal with a lot of reasonable Oxford fans who understand the hierarchy of how football works in terms of budgets, and that I am, of course, going to judge Oxford by where they are in proximity to 22nd place. They're 3 points ahead of it. We do get some emotionally led football fans, isn't it, who, every point Oxford are above 22nd, they get very angry with people like me for judging them on 22nd. But look, I often quote Billy Joel. What does he say in that song? Some people run from a possible fight. Some people just accept the world as it is. Sometimes you have to, and that's the deal. Just keep building in the Championship. Oxford, they're 3 points above the relegation zone. So Sheffield Wednesday. All I wrote down for my notes, I don't know if you can read that there. It says more important things at play. Sheffield Wednesday obviously went into administration on Friday and are on -6 points. And in some ways, that cleanses, doesn't it? That pretty much guarantees relegation unless we get miracle of all miracles. And what it's done is it's, kind of pushed Mr. Chansiri. The spectre is still there. He's still hanging over them until the administrators find a buyer. But it's pushed him away to the point that Hillsborough is no longer toxic. And the Wednesday fans came back in numbers. And the Wednesday fans know that if they turn up to Hillsborough, they buy shirts now, and a lot of them didn't want to buy shirts. If they buy cups of teas, pies, beer, overpriced as they are, not very tasty as they are, that this will help the administrators run the club until they can find a buyer for Sheffield Wednesday who is going to take over, hopefully as soon as possible, and bring them back from League One next season, season after, whatever. So there's bigger things at play at Sheffield Wednesday. Great to see Hillsborough not toxic and full. Not great to see -6 and yet another championship season with points deductions in. Do you know, Wednesday might even get another points deduction in terms of the late payment stuff. The EFL needn't bother, but I guess they have to if they did it for Reading. But none of that matters. On pitch doesn't really matter. It's about new ownership and a positive future. For Sheffield Wednesday, we are expecting points deductions elsewhere in terms of Leicester at some point as well. And I'm sure you guys all hate league tables with minuses on it. It's ridiculous, but it's where we are in football. Finally, Blackburn 2, Southampton 1. And Southampton are in football somewhere where they don't want to be. That is 20th in the EFL Championship after 12 games. And, 46 game season, we are at the, or just slightly over the quarter of the way there mark, aren't we? And this is really poor from Will Still and Southampton. And this is a head-to-head against Blackburn. It was Blackburn 2, Southampton 1. They were next to each other, weren't they, in the championship table going in. And Blackburn closed to within 2 points. And with the defeat for Sheffield United at Preston, move out of the bottom three. Dare I mention, it's the first win for Blackburn since the unfortunate event, as Mark Kermode always used to say to Simon Mayo, about the thing that happens in Harry Potter late in the books. I'm sure I'm not spoiling that for anybody now. Big second half for Blackburn. That was going to be a 0-point week. They were down in what I am categorising as a head-to-head against Saints, and they come back with 2 goals. By the way, Armstrong, former great player for Blackburn as well, is through at 1-0 and misses the 1v1. It's good goalkeeping. But it looks like Blackburn just really went for it in the second half. 15 shots, 5 on target, 5 big chances. Alabiosu, to be fair, it's just a cross that goes in, isn't it? And then Good Johnson forces the winner. But there's loads of players in the box. They are going for the win, which will make the Rovers fans happy after their poor form. And the Southampton fans are going to be so cross, aren't they? To be fair, the lad Cienza is playing well. He is a bright spark in this system that Will Still seems completely wedded to. It's kind of 3 at the back, and then you have 2 10s supporting a striker in Cameron Archer who's not scoring, and you've got a bagsman in Adam Armstrong who's not the central striker. Always reminds me of Gary Lineker saying, playing in Barcelona, that there was 2 gigs. One of them was to kind of play on the wing and do some defending and support the main striker, and one of them was to hang around the box, not do a hell of a lot of defending and just score. And if you remember Gary Lineker as an incredible striker, you know which one's better suited to him. And I think I know which one's better suited to Adam Armstrong and Cameron Archer at the moment. But ho-hum, brilliant goal by Cienza, by the way. Beautiful feet and finish. Some positives. You're still thinking about the bad news, Southampton fans. 1 win in 11. And in those 11 games, only Sheffield Wednesday, who are a complete mess as a club, Norwich, who are having a decade low in terms of a disaster, and Sheffield United, who had an ownership, manager change, completely terrible start of the season. They're the only teams that have been worse than Southampton over that 11-game run. And remember, the win to start the season was pretty lucky against Wrexham, wasn't it? Southampton should have been down to 10 for the Wrexham penalty, and then he scored 2 late goals to win it, don't they? So Southampton really, really struggling. And again, you do wonder. I'll repeat my premise that football clubs are built over the long term and with stability. But if you bring the wrong guy in, you've got to change him. Are you tweeting a corner flag? Southampton admin, Southampton fans, would you be making that call? Let me know your thoughts on Will Still's horrible start as Saints manager, lest we forget they are a year one parachute team who was in the Premier League last year. Worth, there you go. Championship hot takes. It's been such a busy 3-game week. We have done watch-alongs Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. I was at Ipswich, West Brom, Blue Monday live. We've kept the videos coming. I am knackered, so I'm going to take a bit of a break for the rest of the day. I will be on the Sportsman. So take a break. I'm off to Manchester tomorrow, for God's sake, for the Sportsman Untitled podcast. Check me out on that. I think we've got a Birmingham creator on there. So if you're a Birmingham fan, we should have plenty of Blues talk on there with me and Simon on as well, talking about the rest of the Championship. Sam Parkin will be back on Tuesday and Wednesday. And you haven't got to hear Sam's fully formed take on Championship matters, given it had been a 3-game week and we don't do a full podcast. So you can hear from him then. We're back into it. Predictions on Wednesday. I'll be with Matt SB and Conor McGilligan as well on Tuesday. Matt SB on the League One predictions as well. So much going on. Oh, no wonder I'm knackered. The clocks went back, but we forgot to change the little blue cat in my 4-year-old daughter Enid's room. So she just got up at the normal time. That's on us. Or my missus specifically, who did bedtime last night. But let's not get into that particular wasp's nest. So, hang in there, everybody. Get your comments in here on the hot takes video. And we will be back with plenty during the week.